If you're planning on selling your home this spring in the Fraser Valley, don't just wait and hope the market bails you out. You are going to want to hear this. And if you're a buyer, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think you need to rush. The way the numbers are trending right now, patience may actually put you in a stronger position as we move later into the year. And just to show you why I think this, I'm going to break down exactly what's happening using all of the most recent data that we have. So you can see what I'm seeing and then make your own assumptions. And then at the very end, I'm going to walk you through two real estate tools that I just think are an absolute game changer, especially for those who are interested in the real estate market. One is going to give you a shockingly fast idea of what a home might be worth. Literally all you got to do is put in the address. And the other one is something I created for homeowners who just want an unfair advantage in this market. So stick around for both of those. And just so you're aware, this video is in collaboration with a whole bunch of other realtors who do market updates just like this one. So if you're curious on what's happening elsewhere in North America, go check the description. There's lots of good content there as well. And so starting off with the data that I want to talk to you about is the home prices. Now, this is all residential home prices. So that's going to include houses, townhomes, and condos across the board as far as compiled up, and then gives us a number. And if you're if you're more interested in what's happening in each specific area, don't worry, I'm going to cover all that a little bit later in this video. But I just want to give you an idea of the overall theme or the overall stats of what's happening here. And it's no surprise that prices have been continuing to decline, really since 2023 after the big up and down of COVID. But as you can see here in 2025, we've seen a constant decline basically all since March. And I would say it's most likely going to happen here again, where we're going to see a slight increase coming into February, March, just because naturally there's more activity, so there's more competition, so to speak. And then we're going to see it constantly decline. Is it going to be this much? It's hard to say, but as you can see here, home prices have continually declined. I imagine it's going to happen here in 2026 as we continue. New listings, it's funny, when we look at last year's, so 2020 or 2025 and 2024's data, it pretty much mirrors the exact same things. We have fairly good confidence that it's going to happen the exact same way, where there's going to be an uptick of new listings come, March, April, May, because again, that's when everyone decides to put their house on the market. And so we're most likely going to see that again, whereas January right now, it's going to be pretty dormant. February is most likely going to be pretty dormant. And then when it comes to, April, May, or in March, that's when we'll see more activity. And then when we're talking about total inventory, they're basically the exact same. Now, there has been a bit more inventory since the previous year of 2024. But the kicker that I think is going to be interesting, are we going to see the total inventory increase as we get January's data, February's data, and March's data? Or is people just going to leave their house off the market? Because right now, a lot of listings, what happens is they expire at the end of a year. And so as we've seen here, we have a massive drop, which is normal. People are freaking out. It's normal. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. What should be interesting is how many of these listings that come off the market are going to basically come back on the market, or how many are going to try again to try and sell their home. And here we're looking at the total sales that are happening. We've just gotten December's information here. And so as you can see, there's not too much activity happening here when it comes to sales. Now it's interesting because this entire year, 2025, it was a lot less sales than the previous year when you just look at how many sales happened in 2024. Now, I imagine, and this is just my assumption, is that 2026 is going to be similar to 2025, if not maybe less sales. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But this is the sales to active listings ratio. It's kind of an indicator of if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market or a balanced market. It's information that's, the board puts out. And so what's interesting here is we've just hit December's information or stats come out, and we're at 13%, which would dictate that it's a balanced market. And so what they say is anywhere from 12% to 20% is a balanced market, and then above 20 is a seller's, and below 12 is a buyer's market. And so in simple terms, all that means is how many homes are on the market versus how many homes are selling each month. And so if you had 100 homes, only 12 or less sold, it'd be a buyer's market because there's not that many homes selling, so buyers are in the upper hand. Now, if it's 100 homes are on the market and 30 of them sell, well, then it's more of a seller's market because there's lots more people wanting to buy homes. So just keep that in mind as we continue going on here. But this is the part where I want to talk about more specifically what's happening. First, starting with the residential detached. Then we're going to be talking about townhomes, and then we're going to be talking about condos. And then again, we're going to give you my 2 cents of what I think buyers and sellers should do. And at the very end, we're going to go over those two real estate tools that I think are an absolute game changer. And so as we can see here, this is a medium home price. And Similar to last year, December's data, we've seen a little bit of an uptick in just the average price point that, or I should say medium home prices that have sold. Sales have came down, and then active listings there you can see is 23.48. And then the sales to active listings ratio is 13%. And so it's interesting because, people would say, oh, it's a balanced market, but really it's just a whole bunch of active listings came off the market and a little less sales than the previous month. And so what I would say is let's wait until we get January's data as far as, determining if this is a balanced market or not, because really it's just a whole bunch of homes came off the market. And then that, artificially changes the sales to active listings ratio. So let's just, we'll leave it at that. And then becomes the attached, which is again, the townhome market. And so as we can see here, prices have just slowly continued to go downwards. I imagine it's going to be somewhat stagnant here over the next couple months. And then we'll most likely see a slight not artificial, but just a slight incline in prices. And then most likely, once we get into like more of a summer, more of a fall, prices will just be on a slow downward trends trajectory is my opinion anyways. And then talking about the condo and apartment sector here, not much has really happened besides just a slow decline in the home prices. So keep that in mind. As you can see here, there's actually a little bit more sales that happened this year or this month or previous month, I should say. Active listings, we lost, about 600 listings off the market. And let me just check actually the previous one here. I totally forgot to show you guys that one there. Yeah, lost about 400, which then resulted in a 20%. So that would almost say it's a seller's market, judging by what the board says as far as buyer's market, balanced market, and seller's market. And so I don't see that being true, just because again, a whole bunch of people took their houses off the market, and then come January, February, all those homes will more or less come back on the market. Not all of them, but it'll be interesting to see what exactly happens here. But I just wanted to stop and just take a second to reflect on what the board is saying here. Again, then we're going to get into what I think buyers and sellers should do, and then showing those two real estate tools. And so here we have 2025 Fraser Valley housing market slowest in over 2 decades, despite just falling prices and decade high inventory. Well, I would tend to agree with that. Decade high inventory and softer prices failed to spark buyer demand in the Fraser Valley in 2025. Despite favorable conditions and increased negotiating power, many buyers stayed on the sidelines, making one of the slowest years for sales in decades. Now, we did see that when we looked at the sales. Sales were quite a bit less than, the previous year, which is 2024. Ample selection and easing prices gave buyers some of the most meaningful opportunities we've seen in recent years. While these conditions favor motivated sellers in 2025, the hesitancy of many buyers to capitalize reflected the general market climate throughout the province and indeed across the country. Well, yeah, I would agree with that. And here is more specifically for December. The board saw a record 919 sales in December. And then in line with the seasonal pattern, new listings fell sharply in December. Key being seasonal patterns, because it has been the same as last year, right? That's exactly what happens every year. So don't be alarmed by that. Overall inventory remained above seasonal norms, ending the year with 6,965 active listings. The pullback of new listings helped lift the sales to active listings ratio to 13%. Now, again, that's what I was talking about earlier, is that because of the less active listings and the continued, sales that have happened, it's boosted up the sales to active listings ratio, which isn't a true indicator, in my opinion, of what's happening really. So we got to wait until we get January's data to really see what's happening here. And then in December, bringing the market into a balanced inventory to close out the year. Debatable if I would say it balanced. I would say not. The market's considered balanced when the ratio is between 12 and 20%. Factually, as far as how they compare that, it's true, but I would say what's out there in the real world, it's most likely not. The slowdown we saw in 2025 wasn't just about housing. It reflected broader economic uncertainty felt across the region. Households were navigating affordability challenges, rising costs, and tougher mortgage requirements, which all of them contributed to a quieter market. And so really, the way I look at this is it's just there wasn't as much confidence in the market. And so people just, when they're not confident on things, they don't do things. And you think about anything you do, if you're not confident in it, you're not going to do it. So it kind of makes sense. Now, we've gone over a lot of information here, but what does this actually mean for you? And so if you're thinking about buying here in 2026, this is what I have to say to you. And so right now, there's going to be a lot of new listings that'll hit the market soon. Now, soon, I mean, like in the next couple months. And so just keep that in mind when you're thinking about, what kind of inventory is out there. Maybe you've looked at everything, you don't really like what's out there. Well, be prepared. There's going to be a lot more new listings hit the market, and then increase activity in the coming months as well. This is typically, you're not the only one that thinks about wanting to buy here in the spring. Most people, when they buy, it's early spring or fall. That's usually what happens. And so it's just something to keep in mind here. And the next one being here, prices are trending down, though we'll probably see an increase come spring. Now, I say that because I'm literally just going off of all of the last year's and previous year's data as far as what happens this time of year when things go. So, but right now, specifically in January and February, and as we continue on here, there's not going to be much, I would say, price difference. But when we come into the spring, this is usually when more activity, more price increases typically happen. And then it's still important to get pre-approved. I will say this all the time. I say this every single video, is that there's no reason going out and looking at homes if you don't know exactly what your budget is. To me, it's almost crazy that you would go out there and look at, it's like going to look at cars or looking at anything, and it's like, you don't know what your budget is. And well, then why are you wasting time going around looking at properties that may not be even in your budget? And so do that ahead of time. But now, if you're thinking about selling here in 2026 here, at the beginning of the year, what the heck should we be doing here? And so the first thing is price it right from the start. The last thing you want to do is go substantially higher than the market and then sit on the market for a long time. No other buyers are going to come out and look at the property. And then what happens, or could happen, is what happened in the last half of 2025, is that you were just chasing the market down. And then before you know it, your home didn't sell, and then you took it off the market. And so that's what you don't want to happen. And then the next thing that can help aid selling your home is you got to make your home stand out. And so what I would say is fix what's broken. People don't want to walk into your property and then realize, a whole bunch of work's required. And so just maintain your home. It's exactly what I would say, because chances are there's going to be a whole bunch of other properties that are going to hit the market here come early spring, come the next couple of months. And so how do you make your home stand out? Well, you want to be the best option on that street. And so the next one here is be ready for more activity. Now, not necessarily January where a lot of activity happens, but February, March is usually typically where more activity happens. Buyers are coming out of the woodworks. They're, wanting to start looking at homes. And so be ready for that. And then also kind of on the same page is there's more competition ahead. When we look at the new listings that happen on a seasonal basis, a lot of them happen in the early spring months. And so you're just going to have more competition. So you really just need to be in tune with what's happening, because if another property comes up for sale that's a lot better than yours, well, you need to make sure that, the realtor that you're using, or, the information you have out there is up to date. And so stay on top of that, and then be flexible with your terms. I think this is just a given, I would say. You can't have it all, because essentially the buyer's got to feel like they're winning as well. And so just something to keep in mind here when you're thinking about selling your house here in early 2026. Now, I'm always curious, do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you disagree? What are you seeing out there in the market that's, specific to your neighborhood, specific to what, what kind of property you're buying, what kind of property you're selling there? And then, as always, if you'd like to see something else, or you'd like to see, some other information on these market updates, let me know, because I make these for you. And so this is the first real estate tool that I wanted to show you. What's my home, or zero conversation home evaluation? It's literally, you scan this QR code. So that's what we're going to do here, just to show you what exactly I mean here. And so what I want to do here is literally just scan this QR code. And as you can see here, what's my home worth? Get your home value in under 10 seconds. And so what I want to do here is literally just go to realtor.ca, find a property. Let's look at this one right here. And what I want to do is just copy the address and put it in there and compare it to the price here. And so we'll go back to here. We'll copy the price, email, phone number, address. Okay, something funky's going on here. Okay, let's send it. Invalid property address. Okay, there we go. Just takes a sec there. Okay, it's sent it over here. So let's go back. Here we go. $948,000 is what it's saying. What's this one at? $979. So it's a little bit higher, or a little bit lower than what the list price is right now, but it's been on the market for 88 days. And so guys, you can see there, it's pretty close to what it's accurate, especially with the home being on the market for 88 days. Well, it probably needs a price reduction because it's not selling. And so the price that's listed here is probably more accurate. And so feel free to use that tool there whenever you like. It's pretty quick and easy. And the next tool being the Homeowner Advantage tool, which is really just a compilation of all the things that I've been building over the past couple of years. And so what's inside here is a monthly market updates. Videos like these, you can get sent them just so you can be reminded of what's happening here in the real estate market. And then access to my new videos that happen, on a weekly basis. So I come out with content not just market updates, but really just practical tips about home ownership, what to look for when you're buying a home, what to think about when you're selling your home, good things like that. And the next one is an annual home value review. And so, like anything, you get an annual review of your medical health, your finances. You should also be getting an annual review of your most valuable asset, your home. And so that's what that is all about. And then the last one is your home stewardship program, which is really just seasonal reminders of what to do if you own a home, a townhome, or a condo, because last thing you want to do is not maintain your home properly, and then it decreases in value over time. And so just practical tips in there. And so if you're interested in that at all, you can scan that QR code, sign up for exactly what you want, what you don't want. It's kind of simple. Now, what I will say, all this information in this video is very generic. So if you want specific information on your scenario, because everybody's situation is so drastically different, feel free to reach out to me. There's a link in the description. You can do that. I live in the Fraser Valley, so I'm more than happy to help you and give my 2 cents of what I think you should do. Now, if you are in the process of going to open houses, checking out homes on your own, I'm going to show you this video right here where it literally shows you how to spot a bad house in under 60 seconds. So if that's you, go watch that before you go to your next open house. But as always, I appreciate you watching, sticking around with me, and I'll see you in the next one.